Hey, and welcome to session 13 in our series of lessons dealing with music theory made easy. Now, if you haven't done so far, hit like, hit subscribe, and ring the bell. Now, in this particular session, session 13, we're going to be doing a little review. We're not going to review everything, but we're going to do a little review. If you need to review, just go back to our lessons that we've done before. They're still on YouTube. I checked. They're still there. And just go over them again. But we're just going to do a little review on this lesson, lesson 13. Now, we're going to start with the staff. And let me get out of the way so you can see it. All right. Now, we stated that the staff consists of 5 lines and 4 spaces. Okay, the staff consists of 5 lines and 4 spaces. And when you count a staff from bottom to top. Never count a staff from top to bottom, but a staff is always counted from bottom to top. So you have 5 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you have 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. Now also the staff is divided into measures by bar lines. Okay, the staff is divided into measures by bar lines, and the space in between each bar line is called a measure. All right, the staff is divided into measures by bar lines, and the space in between bar lines is called a measure. All right, now let's go to the lines and spaces, the letter names for the lines and spaces of the staff. Now, for the treble or G clef, the letter names are E, G, B, D, and F. All right? E, G, B, D, and F. And you probably know it as Every Good Boy Does Fine. The letter names for the spaces of the G or treble clef is F, A, C, E. And that spells what? Face. All right? Now, let's go to the letter names for the bass or F clef. The letter names for the lines of the bass of the F clef is G, B, D, F, A. All right? G, D, B, F, A, or Good Boys Does Fine Always. All right? G, D, B, F, A, or Good Boys Does Fine Always. And the letter names for the spaces of the bass or F clef is A, C, E, G, or All Cows Eat Grass, or All Cars Eat Gas. All right, that's the review on the treble clef. On the staff really, and the treble and the bass clef. So let's take that down. Let's move on to something else we talked about. We talked about notes and note values. All right. Let's start with the quarter note. The quarter note gets 1 beat. The half note gets 2 beats. The eighth note gets a half beat. The whole note gets 4 beats. And then the 16th note gets 1/4 beat. All right? The quarter note gets 1 beat. The half note gets 2 beats. The eighth note gets a half beat. The whole note gets 4 beats. And then the 16th note gets 1/4 beat. All right? Let's move on. We also talked about time signatures. We talked about time signatures. 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, and we talked about 6/8. All right? 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, and we talked about 6/8. Now, in the time signature, the top number always tells you how many beats in a measure. Okay, one more time. The top number always tells you how many beats there are in a measure. Now, in 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, or common time, that bottom 4 tells you that the quarter note gets 1 beat. Okay? In common time, the bottom 4 tells you that the quarter note Okay, the quarter note gets 1 beat. But now, let's look at 6/8 time. Remember we said in 6/8 time, the 8 at the bottom of the 6/8 time tells you that the 8th note gets 1 beat. All right, let me separate them. So in 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, it could be 10/4, 24/4, 68/4, it doesn't matter. As long as that 4 is at the bottom, the quarter note is going to get 1 beat. If it's 6/8 time, it could be 9/8, 6/8, 12/8, 32/8. It doesn't matter. If there's an 8 at the bottom, that means that that 8th note is going to get 1 beat. All right. Let's move on with our review. All right, let's review 6/8 time. Now, when I put up the 2/4, 3/4, before I put that up, we dealt with the note and note value of common time. The quarter note gets 1 beat, half note gets 2 beats, whole note gets 4. The 8th note gets a half beat, and the 16th note gets 1/4 beat. But now in 6/8 time, it's different. In 6/8 time is different. Okay, we already established that the 8th note in 6/8 time gets 1 beat. Okay, now the quarter note in 6/8 time gets 2 beats. The half note in 6/8 time gets 4 beats. And the dotted half note in 6/8 time gets 6 beats. Okay? So in 6/8 time, the 8th note gets 1 beat. The quarter note gets 2 beats. The half note gets 4 beats. And the dotted half note gets 6 beats. Okay? Now that's in 6/8 time. As I said before, you can go back and review the lessons that we talked about with it, because I said before, they're still up there for you to go back and reference. All right, now, let's talk about scales. All right? Let's talk about scale. Well, no. Let's go, since we had the dotted half note, let's go to the dot behind the note, because we did talk about that. Let's go to the dot behind the note. All right? The dot behind the note. Okay? Let's start with these. Now, remember what I said. The dot behind the note gets half the value of the note. One more time. The dot behind the note gets half the value of the note. Meaning, if I have a dotted quarter note, then that dot is going to get half of what the quarter note gets. Now, the quarter note gets 1 beat. So the dot is going to get half the beat. So a dotted quarter note is going to equal to 1.5 beats, because the dot gets half the value. All right, let's go to a dotted half note. Now, if a half note gets 2 beats, then the dot is going to get half of those 2 beats. So therefore, a dotted half note is going to get 3 beats. All right? A whole note gets 4 beats. The dot behind the whole note gets 2 beats, because half of 4 is 2. So therefore, a dotted whole note is going to get what? 6 beats. Because 4 plus 2 is what? 6. Let's go to a dotted eighth note. Okay, a dotted eighth note. So a dotted eighth note, half of a dotted eighth note is 1/4. So therefore, this is going to be 3/4 beat. Okay, that's going to be 3/4 beat. All right, so now that's the review on the dot behind the notes. The dot gets half the value of the note. One more time. The dot gets half the value of the note. Okay, keep that in mind. All right, let's move on with our review. All right, now we talked about key signatures. Now, I'm not really going to go into a whole lot about the key signatures because we spent 2 or 3 lessons on key signatures. That's why I say if you need to go back and reference some of the sessions that we talked about when we dealt with key signatures. But just review the key signatures. The key of F has 1 flat. Okay, the key of F has 1 flat, and that's B flat. Then the key of B flat has 2 flats. That's B flat and E flat. The key of E flat has 3 flats. That's B flat, E flat, and then A flat. All right, we're going to do one more. Then the key of A flat has 4 flats. That's B flat, E flat, A flat, and D flat. Okay, that's just for the key signatures that we dealt with. So go back to the lessons, the sessions that we dealt with key signatures and scales, and review listening to those, or whatever you want to do, go back and listen to those. All right. Now we also talked about scales. Now we established that the C scale has no sharps and it has no flats. Okay. The C major scale, put it that way. The C major scale has no sharps, no flats. So that's C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. That's the C major scale. No sharps, no flats. Now, we also talked about the number system. The number system is the same in all major scales. It's the same. So C is the 1, D is the 2, E is the 3, F is the 4, G is the 5, A is the 6, B is the 7, and back to the 1, C. We never say 8. We go back to the 1, which is C. Now, also when we dealt with the scales, we also talked about finding the relative minor. Okay? Finding the relative minor. So now, we stated that in order to find the relative minor, you go to the 6th of the scale. So in the key of C major, the 6th of the scale is A. So the relative minor of the C major scale is A. I'm going to put R and M for relative minor. All right? The relative minor of the C major scale is A. Now, you do this in all the scales to find the relative minor. If it's A flat, go to the 6th of A flat, which is F. So F is going to be the relative minor of A flat. E flat, okay? The 6th of E flat is C. So the relative minor of E flat is C. Just go to the 6th of the scale. No matter what scale it is, go to the 6th of the scale and it'll bring you to the relative minor. Now, major scales now. It'll bring you to the relative minor. All right? All right. So now, that's basically what we're going to deal with our review. As I said before, if you want to go more in-depth in the review, just go back to our last few sessions. To our last sessions, you can begin at session 1 and come all the way down to session 12. And review as long as and as much as you want to. Now, this is session 13 of review. But now session 14, we pick up again with the circle of fifths. We go to the circle of fourths and we move on. All right. So now if you have any questions, if you have any comments, send your questions or comments to musicmadeeasy2020@gmail.com. musicmadeeasy2020@gmail.com. Now please send your comments in. Send your questions in. If there's a way that we can make it easier in learning music theory, send it in. Let us know. Okay? Send it in. Let us know. And as always, if there's a question I can't answer, as I always say, I'm not going to tell you I know everything because I don't. So if there's a question that I can't answer, I'll bring somebody in that'll be able to answer that question for you. All right. So I'll see you in session 14.